Hi, I thought I'd show you how to make a box strut. Yeah, these are some of the tools you need: a saw, hammer, chisel. Don't really need the pullers, you could do it by hand. There's loads of different ways of doing it. Anyway, I'm going to show you one way. So why make a box strut in the first place? Because you've got the fence running down here. This is the strainer at the end. When you pull it, obviously it puts loads of strain on the strainer, and it could move it out of line, weaken the fence, make it all go slack. So you want to form a box between this and this post here using this, and then as the top of the strainer goes over, it will push the top of this one, yeah, but you've got wire holding it down to the bottom of this one so it can't move. Anyway, I'll show you how we start. I'm doing this with a chainsaw because it's quicker. It's probably not as neat, but it is a lot quicker. Yeah, so you're going to chop the end, the pointy end off this, and then bore a hole into the strainer with the tip of the bar. Because you're boring in with the tip of the bar, your hole is going to be that big or bigger. Yeah, so what I tend to do is cut this so it's a little bit smaller than the tip of the bar. Just cut it straight across, and then when you do your hole with this, it'll slot in there nicely. So straight across, about there somewhere. So I've cut it off and drawn a line around it, and then I'm going to bore in to make the hole. Right, shape of the hole. So you want to have it going straight in at the top, so any rain that runs down the post drips off, yeah, and along the strut. And then at the bottom you want a bit of a slope like this, so any rain that does get into the hole drips out and down there. And then obviously you've gone into the untreated timber here, or not as well treated, so you want to put a bit of wood preservative in here. This hole is a mess, but it was way faster. You can do it really nice and neat with a chisel and a hammer, but it's going to take you a lot longer. I'm in a rush, so that's why it's a mess, but it is quick. Right, we've got that end in, so it's this end next. This is a round post here. We want to cut a flat bit on it, it just makes it sit better. So all I've done is marked with a knife here. I'm going to do a little nick in with the chainsaw there, and then a boring cut straight through there just to get a flat edge. Once I've done that, this post's obviously too long, so we're going to cut it off here. We want to cut it off a little bit further in than where that flat edge is, so that you can push it and put tension on it. You don't want it loose. So yeah, just about right, but a little bit longer, so it sort of holds in there and puts tension on it. That end's in tight, it's all snug. This end I've cut it, and that is just the tension holding that on there. So the next thing I do is whack a 6-inch nail in from this side, but don't drive it all the way. It does two things: holds this in stronger, and then I have a little bit here and the wire goes around that. And just to say, obviously, if you avoid cutting this one, it's better if you get it just the right size. I think there was a stone down here, so that's why the post ended up here. And where you have exposed the fresh wood, you want to put some preservative on it. And the same thing applies with this flat edge on the top here, so the drips go like that, slightly sloping edge on the bottom so the water runs out. I've just left this little bit out here, and then this is solid, you can sit on that now. Right, going to do the wire end next. Yeah, you should always put a little bend in the end so you know that this is the end to use. That way your roll doesn't get tangled up. Although, yeah, look, this one did. Anyway, one staple through here and at the strainer end here. So we're going to pop it in here and we're going to go round twice. So you want 2 loops of wire around it. Right, I've cut the wire. Put this little thing in here to mark the working end, ready for the next box strut. Down here, that was the first end I did. Looped it around the whole thing twice, and then I've got this one in loose to hold it all in position here. and this end is the one I'm going to pull on. So we want to get all of these wires really tight, lots of tension on it, and it makes the whole box strut really strong. There's various different ways of doing it. You can pull it tight by hand, you can leave it a bit loose and get a piece of wood in here, yeah, treated wood, and you twist it round and round so these all twist around each other like this. Imagine my hand is some wood, and then it goes up against that and you can get it really tight, and then you can tighten it further at some point. You can use a gripple and some pullers, yeah, which again means you can retighten it. I'm just going to use the pullers and then staple it off at the end. This is what the nail is for, to hold these up at this height. You've got to be really careful that these two wires don't cross. If they cross over, they catch on each other and it makes it really difficult to put any tension into it. So yeah, make sure they're on top of each other, on top of the nail. So you need your chain for the pullers underneath both of these, yeah, and on the other side underneath them. Ignore that, that's just the bottom wire for the fence which gave us the line and stuff. Yeah, and then you want to make sure obviously that you're pulling on this end bit here and then up crossed at the end. As you pull it, you'll get tension on them. You can sort of feel or hear it. Sometimes you end up with them slack on this side, so to pull the tension around, rather than just keep going on here, you pull on this one and it brings the tension around, and then you pull on this one and that'll tighten up the opposite side. Right, we've got them there tight, this one's tight, and then it's just finishing this one off. I don't know if you can hear the difference in tone. So this one's obviously a bit looser. I'll put another notch on this chain, and then it's just hand pulling it round through there, bending it back on, stapling it in. It's that simple. Right, so we're going to pull it round with the pliers, this loose end, and then when it's pretty tight, you bang this loose staple home here, the one that's holding all three now, and then you pull it back round and staple it on. That's it, one box strut. Like I say, there's other ways of doing them, there's much neater ways of doing them, but that's, yeah, basic box strut. And you can see how it works now. If the top goes that way, where the tension of the fence is, pulls the top of that, but the wire transfers the load down here and tries to pull the bottom of that post out, which you can't because it's really far down in the ground, so the whole thing can't move, and it just makes the fence really strong.